lying on the earth, connecting to the sensation of your breath. Taking deep inhales in through your nose and long, slow exhales out. As you exhale, release any tension you feel in your head, your face, your neck, and your shoulders. Continue releasing here, exhaling, releasing any tension in the front of your torso, back of your torso, your arms, hands, fingers. We're just in Shavasana. You just came on. On your next exhale, releasing any tension you feel in your hips. Legs, feet, and toes. Our class today is on finding compassion for ourselves and forgiving ourselves for any mistakes that we have made that seem to linger in the mind. Often we can be hard on ourselves, disappointed in ourselves for not being perfect, for not being, quote, good enough. This is a good time to let go of self-judgment. There is one thing that we do often forget. Everything in nature is imperfect, and we are a part of nature. Imagine a life where everything and everyone was perfect. Life would be boring and predictable. Instead, we get to go on this beautiful journey of life, where life can be exciting and beautiful, fun, and imperfect. So why do we judge ourselves for something we cannot control? Brené Brown said, "It is in the process of embracing our imperfections that we can find our truest gifts, courage, compassion, and connection." In today's practice, I invite you to find the courage to listen to your heart instead of your mind. Find compassion for yourself and forgive yourself for your mistakes. After all, you will never be perfect. And find connection to those around you, even in this virtual space. Remembering that we are all on this beautiful and imperfect journey together. Our mantra for our practice today is I am perfectly imperfect, or I am beautifully imperfect. So as you breathe in, saying to yourself, I am. And as you exhale, perfectly imperfect, beautifully imperfect, whatever resonates with you. So finding a few more rounds of breath, perhaps saying this mantra to yourself a few more times. And whenever you are ready, slowly rolling over to one side, whichever side is calling for you. And then gently making your way up to seated. Okay, so our first pose is going to be a restorative fish pose. So there's lots of variations that you can come into for this, depending on what feels best for your head and shoulders, okay? So I'll show you just kind of a couple different variations. So in our restorative fish, we want pillows or bolsters that we're going to lie down on, and then a blanket behind where the head's going to come. Okay. So one variation here is we come back, palms face up towards the sky, and we try and just bring just the top of the head, or just the head, excuse me, off of the props underneath our body. And perhaps the top of the head comes down onto a blanket. If it's too much, you can always scoot your way down your prop a little bit so there's no pressure on your head. You really just want your head hanging back, or top of the head to the ground or the blanket. And if this is not feeling good for you in your neck, you can kind of slide off a little bit. So we move back a little bit on the prop. Maybe we bring the blanket back with us to come underneath the head and shoulders. This time, shoulders come off the earth, palms up towards the sky. So this can feel pretty good in the back too. Just find whichever variation feels the most comfortable for you. In our restorative fish, knees can be bent, feet can come out towards the sides. Or perhaps legs come long if that's comfortable for you. It also depends on the kind of props that you have. Okay, so I can't see everyone. So if anything's uncomfortable, please let me know. You can come on or put it in the chat and I can help you adjust. From here, returning to your breath. Taking deep inhales in through your nose and long, slow exhales out. So I invite you to imagine someone that you love and care for unconditionally. It might not even be a person, it might be a family pet or any other being. Picturing them in your mind, connecting with what you love about this being. And notice how it makes you feel. Where in your body do you feel this compassion and love for this other being? And then sending that love and compassion, that feeling inside of you, send it to yourself. So sometimes this is difficult to do. How do we send it to ourselves? Maybe picture yourself when you were 5. Notice what you looked like. Try and remember it or envision it in your mind. Can you imagine what you sounded like? 5-year-olds sometimes have the cutest, squeakiest little voices. What do you love about yourself when you were 5? Can you infuse your 5-year-old self? Bring together your 5-year-old self and maybe an image of your current self. Bring them together so they kind of become one. And then send that version of you love, kindness, and compassion. Just a reminder that you can make any adjustments in your body, in our pose. You don't have to be completely still. You can always come out early if you need to. And if my meditations don't resonate with you, feel free to allow my words to pass by and come back to the sensation of your breath. All right, so let's find 2 more rounds of breath. All right, making some small movements in your fingers and toes. Okay, if it's just your head that is on the earth in a fish pose, walking yourself down your prop a little bit or wiggle yourself down and then rolling over to one side, be very mindful of your neck. If your shoulders are all the way off, I don't know, maybe just rolling over to one side would be comfortable. And then making your way up to seated. Our next pose is a supported bridge. So you can use a pillow, a folded blanket, or a block. I'll use a block. So anything that's going to come underneath you. So we want to make sure that we place it in the sacrum, so not the low back. So it's going to be below there, maybe even on the tailbone, just depending on where it feels good for you in your body. So when you come down to the earth, feet are on the earth about hip distance apart, knees are bent. You push into your feet to lift your hips and slide your prop underneath you. So arms are going to come wherever's comfortable. Lots of options. Wherever you are, though, palms face up towards the sky, as long as that's comfortable. Okay. So maybe they're by your side, T-shape, cactus arms. Maybe they're up over your head. Options for legs. Maybe feet are wide, knees come together. Perhaps you just extend one leg instead, out long in front of you, or maybe both legs. So your bridge can look like something completely different from everybody else's. And again, you can make movements, change the position of your arms and legs as we go through this section of our class. If it feels uncomfortable in your low back, you might need another height. You might be too high, or you might need to reposition the prop underneath your sacrum, move it up or move it down. Sometimes it's too high up, more often than it's too far down. All right. Connecting to your breath once again. And connecting to your mantra. Inhaling, I am. Exhaling, beautifully imperfect. Softening in your face, especially around your eyes, your jaw. Softening the forehead. Allowing your shoulders to relax. sink down into the earth. And hips sink and settle. All right, so our next meditation is from Tara Brock from True Refuge. So even when we are not overly judgmental with ourselves or really unfair with ourselves, we can move through the day, even still judging ourselves for the way that we feel that we are falling short in life. This practice brings our self-judgments into awareness so they can be seen and released. Staying connected with your breath, deep inhales, long, slow exhales. Is there anything that you judge yourself for or blame yourself for? Any should haves, shouldn't haves? Just notice what comes up in your body and in your mind. What stories arise of wrongdoing have you been telling yourself? Are there stories of letting others down, of performing poorly at work, or not meeting the standards of a loved one, a friend, or other human beings? And if something arises, simply acknowledge it and offer it forgiveness. If it's comfortable for you, you might gently place a hand on your heart and whisper to yourself, "Forgiven, forgiven," or "It's okay." Stay connected to your heart, that love and compassion that you have sent yourself today during our practice. If it's hard to find forgiveness, perhaps picture yourself once again when you were 5. Notice how you don't want to judge your 5-year-old self the way you judge and talk to your adult self. Even if you find this practice difficult, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for finding it difficult. Forgiven, forgiven. Know that this is sometimes difficult to release right away. It may be something you wish to return to again in the future. And each time it gets a little easier and a little bit more goes. Again, sending yourself that love and compassion. Know that you are enough and you do enough right now, just the way you are. I am beautifully imperfect. Whenever you are ready, making some small movements in your fingers and toes. And to come out of the bridge pose, you're going to push your feet into the earth. Knees are bent, feet are hip distance apart, pushing your feet into the earth, lifting your hips, removing the prop either to the side or down towards your knees, and slowly bring your hips down to the earth. And try not to make any sudden movements. If you feel discomfort here in your low back, perhaps bringing feet wide on the mat and windshield wipering knees from side to side. Okay, so whenever you're ready, rolling over to one side. And then slowly making your way up to seated. Okay. So our next pose is it's a downward facing rest. So if you are not comfortable laying on your front body, just hang on and I will give you a different variation for this pose. So in our downward facing rest pose, we want to bring out a blanket and roll the blanket long. The blanket's going to go on the earth, and when we come down onto the front body, it's going to go underneath the hips or maybe a little bit higher, depending on what's comfortable for you in your body. All right, and I'll just give you a quick show. All right. So underneath the hips, see if you can send the tailbone down towards the earth. And then arms are going to come out towards the sides. We're going to come into cactus arms here. And you're going to turn your head towards the left side. placing your head on the floor, unlike me. And then right hand comes down by your side, either palm down or palm up. Okay. If today is not comfortable on your front body, I'd like to offer you a reclined goddess pose. So you're going to take that blanket. You're going to make sure it's long enough to go from your tailbone to, at the very least, the top of your head. And come down onto the earth or onto your blanket. So sitting on the edge of the blanket, coming back, arms come out to the side, cactus arms. Feet come wide on the mat. And then if it's comfortable for you, activate your feet, turn the feet out towards the side, legs drop out to, or knees, sorry, drop out towards the sides. If it's not comfortable in your legs, feel free to bring the knees together. All right, so one of two poses. If you're in the reclined goddess pose, we only have one side, so we won't be switching. If you're in downward facing rest, I'll let you know when we're halfway through, and we're going to be switching our arms and head. Connecting to your breath. Inhaling, I am. Exhaling, beautifully imperfect. Bringing your awareness to your head and your face. Notice any sensations you feel here. Maybe your head feels heavy or light, warm or cool. If you feel any discomfort in your body, sending love and compassion to that part of you. And exhale, perhaps you soften to release. Bringing your awareness to your shoulders. Notice anything here, maybe they're tight. Maybe there's tingling sensation. Or maybe you don't feel anything at all, and that's okay too. If any kind of discomfort arises, sending yourself that kindness. That compassion. Noticing your arms. Maybe they feel heavy or light. Warm or cool. Sending love, kindness, compassion. Noticing the front of your torso. Perhaps you feel your breath. Notice any sensations that are there. Relax, soften, let go, and love. If you are in downward facing rest, bringing your right arm back up to cactus shape, turning your head towards the right side, then bringing the left arm down by your side, palm down or up, whatever feels best. If you're in a reclined goddess, maybe you try a different variation with your legs. Legs can always come straight as well. Noticing your back body. Can you feel your breath here? What sensations do you notice? Being compassionate with yourself. Being okay with what is there. Then relax and soften your back body. Noticing your hips. Maybe you feel something there, or maybe you don't feel anything at all. Relax and soften your hips. Bringing your awareness to your legs. Maybe they're heavy or light, warm or cool. Softening your legs, releasing any discomfort or any tension. Connecting to your heart space. Notice what's there. Being kind and compassionate with yourself. sending love and kindness to yourself. I am beautifully imperfect. Gently bringing your awareness back into the room. Making some small movements in your fingers and toes. If you're in that downward facing rest, bringing both arms back to cactus arms. If you're in a reclined goddess, bring the knees together, feet apart. Downward facing rest, making your way into a tabletop and then into seated. Reclined goddess pose, bringing one arm up by your side, rolling over onto that side and coming up to seated. Okay, a little bit out of the restorative ordinary here. We're going to find some seated cat-cow. Rounding your spine, tucking your chin, tucking your tailbone. And then moving in the opposite direction, shoulders roll back and down the spine. Imagine a string pulling your heart up towards the sky. Moving through a few more times at your own pace. All right, and once you feel ready, making your way onto the earth, Shavasana, or any final resting shape on the earth. Use as many props as you would like to get nice and comfortable. Maybe it's placing a blanket under the shoulders and head. Maybe it's placing props underneath the knees to release any discomfort in the low back. Maybe you prefer to be on your side or on your front body. Whatever helps you sink and settle here into the earth. Taking deep inhales and long, slow exhales. I am beautifully imperfect. And while you are here, I would like to share a poem with you by Daniel F. Mead called If You Would Grow. If you would grow to your best self, be patient, not demanding, accepting, not condemning, nurturing, not withholding, self-marveling, not belittling, gently guiding, not pushing and punishing. For you are more sensitive than you know. Mankind is as tough as war, yet delicate as flowers. We can endure agonies, but we open fully only to warmth and light. And our need to grow is as fragile as a fragrance dispersed by storms of will, to return only when those storms are still. So accept, respect, and attend to your sensitivity. A flower cannot be opened with a hammer. gently bringing your awareness back into the room. Perhaps making some small movements in your fingers and toes. Maybe those small movements become bigger movements. And slowly, in your own time, rolling over to one side, whichever side is calling for you. And then gently making your way up to seated. And once you get there, lowering or closing your eyes. Taking deep inhales in through your nose. Long, slow exhales out. Inhaling, I am. Exhaling, beautifully imperfect. I honor our practice, all the teachers who have come before us to bring us this beautiful practice of yoga. And I honor all of you for being here today, for sharing your practice with me and with each other, even though it's virtual. Have a beautiful evening.